You already know what time it is. It's your boy DJ Richie Skye back with some tea, interviews, recaps, and more. And be sure to check the links in the description of this video for trips, for books, one-on-one sessions, and more. Now let's get into the tea. What's going on, Skye Squad? We are back in the building and we gotta talk about a brand new beef. Y'all, this is the last beef that I was expecting. And then we're gonna also talk about Belle Collective Reunion Part 2. Okay. So this is the beef that I'm just kind of like, what? Why? How? Where did this come from? It just seems like it came out of nowhere, at least for me in my head, right? So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, make sure you got, y'all, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop a comment, and listen, be sure to also get into my best hotel in Tokyo, Japan video on my Rich Life Richie YouTube channel, formerly Richie in Real Life. All right. The link will be in the description down below so you guys can watch that there. Okay. All right. So let's get into the tea of it all. How did I discover this? How did I come upon this? Well, our friends at Urban Bell Mag had the tea. Okay. Now, when you dive deeper into the article of it all, you will actually notice that this has all stemmed from a live that was done on Sunni's page in response to something that Arionne said about her. Now, that live, you guys can go and watch clips from the live on Empress Radio here on YouTube. So definitely head on over there if you're on YouTube, Empress Radio. I'll place the link in the description. You guys can watch the entire thing for yourself. But let me get into the broad strokes of it all. The broad strokes, right? So apparently, Arionne said some things about Sunni on social media that Sunni felt insulted by. All right. So Sunni then reveals that Arionne actually filmed a scene years ago. I don't know how many of y'all already knew this. I'm sure some of y'all probably did. But for those of you guys who are really just kind of on the outer edges of the show, just sort of watching the show, right? Apparently, this is because Martell brought her to the set despite production not asking to film with her. So they didn't ask to film with her, right? Sunni then says she bombarded her way to the front of the camera, full makeup and all. And in this scene, Arionne allegedly confronts Marceau, and Marceau allegedly claps back at her. And apparently, Sunni says that he revealed some tea about her. Sunni says, quote, "One more thing I will say is that when she tried to call herself confronting Marceau, Marceau said that he had a video of her getting well, y'all know, I mean, there's no other way to say this, but the trains, okay? The train ran or something like that." So later, she also says that Martell became so upset and angry by this comment from Marceau that Martell tried to fight Marceau, and production had to break it up. She says, and then Martell got mad that Marceau said he had seen the tapes of her, having, relations or whatever with some other folks while they were together. And they really had a fight. Like, we had to stop production. So apparently the scene got scrapped. All right. Then she says that Martell demanded to see the video on his phone, and Marceau said he wouldn't put his business out there like that. Sunni then confirms that this is the tea that Marceau was referring to during the infamous scene at Destiny Payton's field day from this season, where he referred to Arionne as a shareable side chick. Okay. Again, I will place the link for the article from Urban Belle Mag in the description. I will also place the link for the video where you can see the live on Empress Radio here on YouTube so that you guys can see it for yourself. All right. Um, didn't know that this was a thing. Don't know what Arionne said about her initially to even cause this fallout. But I'm interested to see how this all plays out. Will we see more of Sunni during the season? That's kind of really what I want to know, right? Like, will Sunni be back? Will we see more of Sunny Sunshine? I don't know. Let us know in the chatterization what you think or what you may have heard. All right. So with that being said, let's touch on the bells and see exactly what those bells are ringing for part 2 of the reunion. Now, for the visual, I'm going to go back to the visual that we used last week, basically because it does show the entire cast featured on Carlos King's Instagram page and Kingdom Reign. So, and we got a couple of other visuals that we'll kind of sprinkle in here. All right, so let me just give you my overall impressions of episode 2 of the reunion. I'm going to read you guys the link, the actual synopsis. It's season 5, episode 10, State of the Reunion. And the Belle men take this to reunion stage. Marie and Latrice attempt to settle their beef. JJ finally comes face to face with Selena. Latrice reveals the tragic aftermath of the brawl at Taste. And Lateshia and Aikisha square off over the future of the collective. All right. So just, I'm going to have to give this episode an 8 out of 10. I just felt like for me, I needed more. This is one of those reunions that really, in my opinion, could have used 3 parts because I just felt like there wasn't enough time to really dive into the issues in any full context, right? So let's talk about those issues as the synopsis breaks them down, right? You know, the first thing I will say is that I did enjoy the banter between Lateshia and Dr. Antoinette. It felt shady, but there was also the undertone of sparring partner, and we know it, and we could do this all day type situation. You know, when Lateshia points out that Mint Dental is no longer there and that Dr. Antoinette is no longer practicing, I don't know that Dr. Net responded to the no longer practicing part, but she did respond to Mint Dental not being there. And she says that some other corporation ended up purchasing the business and its operations. So, with that being said, she says that she made a profit from it. And when asked if she would return for another season, actually just about everybody raised their hands when Carlos asked if they wanted her to return, right? She says that she was trying to leave Mississippi, so I don't know whether or not she would be up for it. But I guess just like Aikisha, if she leaves, then she could potentially come back and film for the 3 months that they film, right? But that also seems to leave a bit of a nasty taste in the mouth of the rest of the women because at least some of the women see Aikisha as just someone who comes in to film for 3 months and then she's out, right? But I would say that in contrast to that, even if she is simply doing so, you know, it does appear that she has roots and legacy in Mississippi, specifically Jackson, as well as work that is being done within the state of Jackson, even if she's doing it from afar. So, I mean, if we're really talking about the good of Jackson being the centerpiece of the show, because it used to be really centered around Ferris Street, and I'm still interested in that. Like, I hope we don't lose the plot of that in all of this, because I think that there's something that makes this show unique, and that is this revitalization of this historic area that I feel like we don't necessarily have with a lot of other shows. And one of the things that I feel like makes some of these shows so interesting is, for me, in this day and time, when we are so accustomed to what the trappings of reality TV, that we can become a little bit jaded or tired of the same old, same old. And the same old is sometimes, a group of, ladies and gentlemen going to dinner, and, then playing a game of telephone based on one-on-one conversations, or two and two conversations, and a little bit of sprinkled magic from behind the scenes of, somebody said this about somebody and we don't really know who said what, but it all plays out in front of us in a certain type of way, and so we're left to try to figure out who said what to whom and how they did it, and then until they resolve it, right? That formula is, I don't want to say becoming tiresome, but I really do think that the future of reality TV will rely on, a I think, the addition of how production is done, and then B, the focus on a centralized project, right? To me, reality TV works best when there is an ultimate end goal that the people involved are trying to reach, and it works best when there is natural drama and chaos that follows, because different people have different approaches to how they do so. And I think this is a real big reason for the rift between Lateshia and Aikisha, because you have two women who are powerful in their own rights, right? They may vary in their backgrounds, history, socioeconomic status, but their intentions are to revitalize this area. And the friction that lies therein is really who's going to get it done, who can get it done, who's getting it done, how are they getting it done, and what happens in the process of them trying to get these things done, right? So to me, as long as they keep that revitalization and Jackson as the focus, then I think that regardless of whether or not it's Aikisha or it's, so Gucci leaving, I think if you keep that central focus as the real focus of the show, then you never lose the plot. So you can cycle people in and cycle people out, but I think a few of those faces have to remain also the same, right? So with the loss of Aikisha and with the loss of so Gucci, I do feel like we did lose a dynamic family element with Sophia, excuse me, and JJ and the Selena of it all, right? But again, if Jackson is the focus, we focus on who's doing and making moves in Jackson and that has a story to tell. And that should be very relatively easy to find if you have real people who are doing real things and have real families and have real connections within the city and within the circle. So that's my little diatribe about the state of the show as it stands moving forward. And I hope that they just keep that central plot as the focus, bring it kind of back to that, and we can still rebuild this without those two people. I mean, because we at this point we have to. Season 6 is already greenlit. All right, so let's get into the actual issues that were talked about. Dr. Internet and Lateshia, Lateshia agrees that Dr. Internet is good for the show. So it ends with they just have a love-hate relationship, which I think was nice. It's giving, a little bit of Karen and Giselle type energy, right? And I just use them as an example because I think, when you have the two sort of like you have two, you know, uh women who are powerful in their own minds, and in their own rights, then that's a natural friction that you could end up with. All right. I want to talk about the men taking the stage. For me, the men taking the stage, it really was a road to nowhere, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I didn't really feel like anything was resolved. I felt like Everybody still felt the same about where they left things off. I think that Glenn still feels a certain type of way about the comments and the jokes that Willie made about his rap and other aspects. I think that Cliff still just thinks that Willie is an a-hole. I think that Willie I think that there's a part of him that may look a little down on them because they are, there's sometimes a North versus South type of mentality. And sometimes people can tend to look at people from the South, and I'm a country boy myself, so I get it. Um, in their mannerisms and the way they talk, but there's something about being from the country in my mind that is just it's a down home feeling that's comfortable for me, right? But someone from, a New York up north may look at that in a certain type of way. That's just the reality of it. And so there's a natural friction that is probably always going to be there or would be there as long as Willie stayed on the show, or at least until he got to know them better. I really don't know. Which is interesting because, Willie talks about his own private conversations with Glenn, and Lateshia later tells us, wait, y'all don't even have each other's numbers. So how are y'all talking? And that's something I don't really know. Because I do think that they could have probably at some point in time found a middle ground, but it just wasn't going to happen. It didn't happen in this reunion. Nothing was solved. End of story. Now, things do get interesting when the women and the men are brought back to the stage. All right. So for me, the issues between Sophia, JJ, and Selena, we weren't given enough time with them, to be very honest with you, for my taste. I needed, again, this is why I say we needed a three-parter, because, you know, I understand that this is a sensitive issue, but it was a sensitive issue that y'all brought to this show, right? Especially with the girls and their dad. And we've seen the girls at the reunion before as well. And so, at least for me, in telling the full story, I would have, and I'm going to be very selfish in this moment. And I know that. So I readily admit that. But as an observer and someone who is interested in the story of it, of how this family gets back on the right foot, I think a big part of that story is the girls' perspectives. And we didn't get that in this reunion. So we're still left with the post that Sophia left on her Instagram that everybody was good. Um, but based on the actual reunion, it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel that there was any resolution. It felt like now that JJ and Sophia were sitting in front of Selena and her man, it felt like, oh, we would just wish her the best. That's it. I handle things the way I handle things. And Carlos, you can't tell me how to handle my situation. And that's true. I mean, listen, nobody can tell you what to do as a parent with your children. But to me, if it is that the children wouldn't even have a relationship with you if they didn't reach out, to me, you have to be the bigger person. You are the father in this situation. You are the leader in that situation. And really, to me, these are your daughters. So when we think about fathers and daughters and we think about how the protective nature of those relationships, it's like for me, I'm questioning, why wouldn't that protective nature come out a bit more in that scenario? But again, this is a family dynamic that runs much deeper than I'm sure than even I know, but I can only go based off of what I'm seeing on the show. And from what I'm seeing on the show, what you're giving me is, I'll handle things in my own time. And when I'm ready to talk to them, I will. Even if they are the ones who are reaching out and inviting you to things, you are going to take your sweet time because you need to teach them a lesson. But the crazy thing about life is, you don't have an estimate really of how long you actually have to teach them that lesson. That's the reality of life. So when you think about this beef that you have with your daughters over them taking their mom's side over your new wife's side, and then you also thinking about, I need to make this right with my family, how best can we do that? Then the longer you take, we all have a ticking time. And for me, it's just like, knowing what I know now, like, life, you can't be waiting around for, when you finish being mad about something. Like, you are the grown adult here. Like, it's time for you to step up and in this situation, so that everybody can get along and be in the same space, because ultimately you're gonna have to be at some point. You're gonna have to be at some point. So now at this point, Sophia has gone so hard at Selena during the reunion that now that he's out there, she's like fired up and ready to go. Like, she had all this smoke from me earlier. Like, okay, now that you're here, let's deal with the smoke that y'all apparently both have for me. And I just I do wish that we could have seen a resolve for the family, because I think that because we saw so much of the tension, it would have been so nice to see, y'all know what, let's squash this, and let's just dead this situation, and how do we start fresh from here? I would have loved that. But we didn't get any of that. And I think maybe it was because the parties involved just didn't seem willing to at the time. I also want to address a deleted scene that I saw out there. I think it's on, if I can go back and find out, I think it was on Reality Entertainment TV. There's some deleted scenes from the reunion, and one is where Tamra is talking about, being a new mom, and she mentioned something about how she didn't film like one-on-one with any of the ladies all season. And I just thought to myself, yeah, we could definitely see that. So if you had 3 months to shoot, how much time did you have to dedicate to this show? And was that your fault, or was that the fault of production? Like, were you just too busy? Or what happened that led to you not filming with any of the ladies one on one? What led to that? Because when I really think about it, we really only did see her in scenes with Damon and with groupings or pairings of the lady, like, trios. So what happened with that? So I feel like that was left unanswered for me as well. And what her relationships are with each of the individual ladies. So then we finally get to the main issue of the night, and that is, and I don't want to say the main issue, but the big issue is the brawl, and what happened that night at Taste. And we get, from Willie and Aikisha's perspective, there was a comment that was made for Lateshia. It escalated once Aikisha got involved. For Aikisha, it escalated once Glenn whispered to Cliff that he's just mad that you got a hot young wife and he got Aikisha. Now, at that point, what I took that to mean was, because Glenn didn't really stand 10 toes down in that comment. I mean, he did in a very shady way, but he didn't in the way that I would have really just preferred him say. Like, what I mean by that is, you know, there's an age difference. Because if that's what you were trying to say, then that's what you was trying to say. Like, I feel like, just if you know what you said, and he was definitely, he stood in it, but it was like he was standing one toe in it and one toe out of it. Because what he said was still shady. Was, I called Aikisha Aikisha. Well, Carlos has to break it down. Like, you're basically referencing Aikisha being the opposite of hot and young, pretty much. But Glenn doesn't really own that. And I felt like if you are going to say something like that, just own it. But I know that had he done that, he probably knew he would have gotten a lot of backlash for that, right? And rightly so. Um, because I don't know the age difference between Latrice and Aikisha, so I can't really call that. Um, because and then again, it's like one of those things from the South. I'm not asking no women the ages. I'm just not. Um, and Aikisha and Lateshia have their moments. Aikisha does get some reads in about Lateshia better be worried about how her husband gonna take care of their household. Um, and Lateshia points out that, girl, you're only here 3 months. You ain't really Jackson. You ain't really Mississippi. You ain't really a Belle like that. Um, I told you guys kind of what I felt about that earlier. So to me, as long as she was there and she was focused and she was doing her thing, like, it really doesn't give her a lot to work with in terms of building outside relationships, probably outside of Sophia, excuse me. But Tamra lives there and we rarely saw her. So we saw more of Aikisha this season in the time period that she was there than we did of Tamra all season. So, I mean, the scales are balanced to me, if you ask me on that one, but it is what it is. I still want to know why we didn't see a lot of Tamra. Is that her decision or was that the decision of the show? And will she come back next season? Because I feel like when she's present and active, she's good. But if you're just going to be Sally from the sidelines, then do you really want to be there? Or are they just not giving you the edit that you deserve? I don't know. All right, so then we also have the issue between Latrice and Aikisha. So I had heard or I'd seen people talk about, this phone issue online. The phone issue being, of course, that Latrice's nephew was at the event. And apparently somehow his phone got lost in the brawl of it all that I've heard we even see much of. And so someone from production allegedly gives the phone to Aikisha's people. Now, this confusing part for me is that Aikisha says that she doesn't have that they didn't have the phone. But then she alleges also that when Latrice says that even Marie corroborated that Aikisha at some point or someone in her family had the phone and threw it out. My question is, did you have the phone or not? Because if you had the phone and you knew it wasn't your phone and production gave it to you, why not just whoever had the phone give it back to production and say, this don't belong to us? Once you've circulated it and found out who it belonged to, I don't know whose phone this is. 9 times out of 10, though, if it's a phone, 9 times out of 10, that person got their photo on their phone or something that resembles either their family or something. And when you see that phone and you touch it, at least you might not can be able to get in it unless it just has nothing on it. 9 times out of 10, it's like I would be like, oh, this ain't my phone. Whose phone is this? I don't get this phone back. This ain't my phone. Like, in my mind, that's where that would go. And if you know that it's part of somebody else's, the other party that you beefing with, and you know it's their phone, just simply say, yo, it was fair play. Y'all fighting us, we fighting you. We threw that phone away. That phone is history. Stand in it. Like, that's what I'm saying. But like, I couldn't get a good gauge of whether or not Aikisha and Willie were owning up to anyone in their circle having the phone. But then there was it was 3 weeks later, that phone could be anywhere. But if someone is tracking the phone, then and the phone is in the vicinity, and I know it's my castmates, at the end of the day, Aikisha says she didn't know that the situation was what it was with the nephew. Does that mean that you didn't know that the nephew had passed? Or does that mean that you just didn't know it was Latrice's nephew? Because would it make my question is then, did it only make a difference now because you knew that he had passed? Or should it have made a difference to you then when you know it just didn't belong to you, it belonged to her cousin? That's what I'm trying to get at. Because when we actually look at the messages that production showed, though it's only the parts that are highlighted that we really are focusing on. But you have to look at the rest of the message. It says from Latrice, allegedly, on Monday, June 10th, I've contacted you regarding my nephew's lost cell phone. Okay, so that means that I already hit you up once. Production advised that the phone was handed to your niece during my opening, during the commotion. It was also tracked via Find My iPhone to your address. I have requested that it would be returned. I have since heard nothing from in regards to retrieving it. Before things escalate, let me know what's up. So now there is an implied threat at the end. Okay. Implied that this could go left because I'd already contacted you once. Right. So my response is when Aikisha received this message at first, maybe she was just angry in that moment and was like, I'm not even thinking about this phone because y'all done tried to fight me. Y'all done invited me to this thing. Now y'all done tried to fight me. I done had to defend myself and my husband. I'm not even fooling with you. Was it that? And then we see another message that says, girl, bleep you. You're the vicious MF. So I'm assuming that we didn't, because we don't see Aikisha's response to Latrice after that, because there had to have been something that was said in after Latrice's message in order for this next message to occur. Otherwise, the conversation doesn't make sense. So for me, show me the entire thread. That's what I want to see. Okay. We always see is you're the vicious MF. Tread lightly, you antique face dummy. I guess you feel like blah 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 umpteen years ago accounts for class or some form of prestige. It does not. You lack in all those areas very poorly. I can't stand hoes like you. You and your husband came to my event on BS. You should have stayed home. Who would have missed you? You have zero substance. So she goes in. So again, this is one of those moments where can we see both sides of that message? That's just me being nosy at this point. But whatever the case, the phone is missing. Aikisha and Willie swear they don't have it, while Latrice swears that the tracker location is somewhere in their vicinity. So we didn't get any resolve on that either. The only thing that I felt like we really got a resolve on was the issues between Latrice and Marie. Now, though they hugged it out at the reunion, which I thought was great, there was still just the other week a post from Marie indicating that that there was a lawsuit that or some type of like legal action that had taken place that Marie says had not been rectified on the show. But in my mind, if the reunion was filmed some time ago, then I thought y'all hugged and made up. So why are we back to the lawsuit? And if so, I need to understand from Latrice, why are we suing? Or is there still a lawsuit? Has that been dismissed? Because at this point, y'all have hugged it out. And to be quite honest with you, I cannot take another season of Latrice versus Marie. I am over it. Okay. I am over it. Stick a fork in it. It is done. I am tired. I am weary. I am worn with this. Let it go. Okay. Let it go. We see them hug, and at the end, they toast to a burger. You know, Latrice has a burger that that Marie has allegedly made. I don't really know. The burger's good. They seem like they on a good path. Please start fresh from there. Okay. I don't need to hear nothing else about this. Whatever y'all got going, the lawsuits, just let them go and move on at this point. Because I just can't. Okay. Um, so overall, I mean, as a season, I thought it was a great season. The reunion didn't give me much resolve. So I definitely could have used a three-part reunion for this because the issues were so nuanced and a lot happened 8 episodes. So, I mean, just a thought for next season, y'all. If we got that much going on, I would like to see a reunion that this show actually really deserves. That's just me. And I'm sure this is in the episode order, right? So typically when a network orders a season of a show, they'll order a specific amount of episodes. So we only have X amount of episodes to work with, including the reunion. So I'm sure that's the reason why this happens. But what I'm saying is, if we look like we need more, like, okay, at least give us one more, right? Reserve that one for something. I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. All right, with that being said, listen, again, like I said, y'all make sure to tap into the Japan vlog. I'll be posting more of these little vlogs of my trips and stuff like that on that channel, as well as, just a lot of inspirational stuff. Of course, we still have our Rich Life going on. For those of you guys who are curious as to what that is, this is basically a lifestyle membership where you can get discounts on hotels, vacations, up to 80% off, as well as you can also get paid daily. Simply if you are the type of person that likes to run your mouth and tell people about it. All right. So I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I mean, it's nice to wake up to, an extra check or two. So with that being said, if you're interested in Rich Life, make sure you tap into 202-918-3386 before I turn this over into the newsletter. And then with that being said, make sure you guys keep it locked onto the channel, because of course we have Love and Marriage Huntsville coming up tonight. So we will be tapping into that as well. So with that being said, I will catch you in the next video. Now that you've watched today's video, let's get into this group trip to Cape Town, South Africa. Yes, y'all, Skye Squad, we are hitting South Africa, and we are hitting it hard. April 10th through the 17th of 2025. You can click the link in the description of this video to get more information and to reserve your spot. Now, we're going to keep this intimate because we have a lot to do. We are going to be looking at real estate. We're going to be learning about retirement and permanent visas, dual citizenship, buying and purchasing land. We are going to be looking at it all because we want options in South Africa, baby. And listen, Cape Town is one of my favorite cities. So of course, we're going to be doing some of my favorite things. We are going to be hitting the wineries. We are going on a safari. We're going to Table Mountain. We're going to some of my favorite restaurants. And let me tell you, one of them is Gold Star, baby. If you know, you know. We're going to be meeting with some expats who have relocated from the United States to Cape Town as well. This is going to be a luxury experience, okay? So we're talking doing the absolute most. So if you've ever wanted to go to Cape Town, South Africa, but maybe you didn't have the group to go with, maybe you just didn't have the right people that wanted to go and experience it with you, this is an opportunity for you to come with us. Now, I only have about 10 to 12 spots available. Yes, because again, I'm trying to keep this thing intimate, and I know that what type of experience I want it to be. So get in while you can, y'all. Trust me, in 2025, we are going to be needing all the options that we can get. And I am going to do my utmost to bring us the most that we can possibly get in and out of the country. So come with me to South Africa. The group trip is going to be lit April 10th through the 17th. Go ahead and click the link in this description of this video so that you can reserve your spot today. Cape Town, South Africa awaits.